Welcome, everybody, back to Caravan of Consciousness podcast. Today's date is the 27th of August. Can you believe that? In 2026. Don't know if I'll get this recording up today, but it'll be up in the next day or two. I usually say that and then I scramble and get it up straight away. But anyway, um, but just so people have got a reference as to what time, and I'm not time traveling for once. I'm actually speaking to someone that's in the same time zone. Yay! So
I'm with
we,
that.
yeah, so we are episode 20 of Caravan of Consciousness, and today's guest is Andy Thomson. He's the chief alchemist of zetapotential.com.au. So welcome, Andy.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. That's a lovely introduction, and it is nice to be in the same time zone because I can actually have a cup of coffee. Usually, when I'm speaking to somebody like Mark or Guy, it's 9 o'clock at night and you can't have a coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
it is
so.
nice to be on the same in the same time zone and the same. And mind you, that's only for another few weeks.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You go on to silly time soon, don't you?
Oh yeah, well you need
Yeah.
it down here. I mean, we live about 5 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes from the beach. And in the summer, like because Melbourne's got a twilight, whereas Brisbane doesn't,
Yep.
we our twilight goes until nearly 10 o'clock in
Yeah.
December. So it's fabulous. It's just you can get in the beach at 9 o'clock at night, still broad daylight. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does
Yeah.
have its benefits, but
It does.
I
Yeah.
know the cows and everything, and
Yeah. And yeah, because I used to visit Tassie quite regularly until my father passed away, and my stepmom's now moved to Melbourne, but been to Tassie many times over the last few years, and I really did love that long twilight. It
yeah.
kind of reminded me of growing up in England, although I wasn't a fan of it in England when I was a child, because I only lived in England from birth till 7 years of age. But I was up north, right up the top,
Mm,
North Yorkshire, and it stayed light till, well, it never got dark actually. It never
no.
got completely dark.
Mm,
The sun was up till probably 9:30 at night, and then you'd have a very long twilight. But even at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it was still
a
just, you
little bit
had that
light.
light. Yeah.
Mm.
It never got, yeah, in the summertime. But then in the winter, I remember going to school in the dark and coming home from school in the dark. So I really do like the Queensland light situation, sunrise, sunset, and not,
It was the one thing that I hated when I was working shift work in the 80s and 90s, and you'd work a night shift, and I always used to like to be able to get home, when it was dark, because you could go to bed and go to sleep and it was still dark.
yep,
And in summer, of course, it was light at bloody 5 o'clock in the morning, and that wasn't going to happen because you finished at 7 a.m. So
yeah,
I hated that aspect of it, but I love daylight savings, but I wish they'd just settle on whatever time they're going to have and just have the one time.
yeah,
It's so difficult I've got business partners that live in Mooloolaba, and I constantly have to think of the time frames. Yeah, for
yeah,
6 months of the year, you're sort of thinking, oh yeah, no, they're an hour behind us. Yeah, 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 because and it does
yep,
messes people up.
it
So
does,
I'd be
yeah,
happy if they got rid of it, or
yeah,
either got rid of it or got it, whatever they deserve. Just make a bloody decision on whatever time it's going
yeah,
to be,
and stick
and
to that, yeah.
stick to it. Let everybody be on the same time.
Yeah, especially
Won't happen though.
I feel sorry for the people on Tweed Heads on the Gold Coast that might live
Yeah,
in New South Wales and work in Queensland or vice versa. And
yeah,
there's
that'd be
just
hard.
one street that divides
Mm.
the two states. So you could be on one side of the road and then on the other side you're an hour difference. How the hell do they work that out when they've got to go to school or work
Yeah,
or
it's just
oh,
crazy. It
nightmare,
just
yeah.
drive you mad.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving along. So, first of all, I usually ask my guests a little bit about their journey as to how they got to
Mm.
where they are now, and also the fact, did you realize when you were growing up or when you were a child that this place, this realm, this earth, whatever it is that we are in, this
Yeah.
construct, that it wasn't what we have always been led to believe or indoctrinated into believing it was. When did you actually come across that? Did you always feel as a child that there's just something about this place that's just not quite right?
No, no. As a kid, I mean, I grew up. Dad worked for in the early days Department of Civil Aviation, and so we lived all over Australia. I was born in Port Moresby in New Guinea, so we were we lived all over Australia, Darwin, Adelaide, Brisbane, all over the place, and um, and none of that actually occurred to me. Absolutely none of it. I just considered everything normal until we got into the early 2000s and a bit beyond there, and for a whole bunch of reasons, I'll feed you in on the backstory to this, but we probably didn't. My wife woke up before I did. She's always had that intuition, I'll call it that.
Hmm.
Um, but of course, from my perspective, I just laugh and go, "Don't be silly," you
Yep.
know. It was like when 9/11 happened, and she said, "I think that's bullshit." And I
Yep.
went, no, 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 it's absolutely, it's real, it's nonsense. I know the science behind it. And then of course, you watch one documentary and they raise one question and they say, and you look at it and you go, oh shit.
Hmm. Yep.
And
It's like
and
picking
that
that
was,
stitch,
yeah,
isn't
it
it?
was like a thread, you pull a
Yes.
thread and the whole bloody thing unravels.
Yep.
And that's what
Exactly.
happened. That's what happened for me to a degree with the medical industrial complex.
Yep.
That was really what started me down that path. There was a chap in Scotland by the name of Malcolm Kendrick, and back in the early 2000s, when I was a young chap and sort of like 50, um, because I turned 64 this year, which never ceases to gobsmack me.
Yeah, and certainly don't look it.
Well, and I don't feel it.
But they say that
Um,
60 is the new 40, isn't it?
well, I bloody hope so.
Yeah.
Means I've got a few years left in me, so.
Yep.
But the medical industrial complex is something that we'd always been exposed to. And our family doctor was a friend of ours. We'd known him for 35 years. So, you know, I've got to try and tie this together. So in 2018, I had a blood test, just a routine one. And of course, that came back and he said, oh, your cholesterol is too high. What he didn't realize is that for the preceding 5 years, I'd been seeing another doctor
Yep.
on the sly. And that guy I'd been working with him doing blood tests and understanding cholesterol and reading Malcolm Kendrick. And he wrote a book called The Cholesterol Con. He's wrote several of them. And so I had a really good understanding of cholesterol and what it did and what it wasn't
Hmm.
doing. And, the absurdity of statins and things like that. So of course he's made this diagnosis, and I looked at him and I said, he said, "Oh, you have to go on statins," and I looked at him and said, "No, I'm not."
Yep.
And because he was a friend, and I think because he realised that he couldn't he couldn't he couldn't compel me to do that. So he
Hmm.
said, "Look, I want you to go and get a calcium score, and if you've never had one of those, I'd strongly suggest you don't." They are highly invasive. It's essentially a CT scan of your heart arteries. And what they're looking for is they're looking for a buildup of calcium.
Hmm.
And what a CT scan, what that scan doesn't show, it doesn't show the difference between soft and hard calcium. So, of course, the score came back and he said, oh, I'm just going to see this specialist. So I've gone along to the specialist and they've put me on a treadmill and they've done the stress test and all the rest. And he sits there afterwards and he's looking at his paperwork and he's got it here and he's umming and ahhing. And I said, so what was the result? And he said, oh, well, yes, well, you've got the blood flow of a 30-year-old, and there's nothing wrong with you, and I can't see any reason for you to go on statins.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yep.
and he said, "Oh, well, we'll revisit this in a few years." And I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh, we won't."
No. Why
It's
go looking for trouble when there is
exactly,
none?
there's nothing wrong with me. So anyway, but I walked out of there and I thought, I'd spent $1,800 of my own money to prove to two qualified medical practitioners, one a specialist, that they're not their diagnosis,
Hmm.
but but their prescription was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no such thing as a one size fits all. It
Yep.
doesn't
Oh,
work that way.
and just for YouTube's purposes, this is all entertainment purposes,
Oh yeah,
and we're not
absolutely.
giving any medical
Well,
yep,
I actually never
yep,
give medical advice, and
advice, yep,
I never say to people, don't take statins or don't take this or don't
yep,
take that. I'm not a doctor,
yeah. Everyone
and
need it's a case
my
by case, and everyone
my
needs to do their
experimentation
own.
was on myself.
Yep,
Every single one of us as a chemical product is
yep,
different, and we're
yeah.
different in a million different ways.
Exactly.
What
Sorry for
works
throwing
for
you off there,
That's
but
right.
I just thought I'd interject there with that because I
I
know
think that's a wise
what
point.
yes, what YouTube are like. So I just thought I'd put that in there.
I think that's very
Yeah.
worthwhile.
Yes.
It's a valid point. I have a lot of people email me and ask me questions and say, oh, should I do this or should I do that? And I said, well, you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a supplement that will help you over a long period of time and
Hmm.
improve your health.
Yeah.
But my job's not to fix things.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it, and B, I don't know what's wrong. So,
Yeah.
everybody, we all have our own journey on that particular path,
Yeah.
myself included. I used myself as a guinea pig to be able to do this. I took a risk in doing that.
Yeah.
But I'd done enough research to realize that that risk was fairly minimal,
Hmm.
and I knew my body well. I was a cyclist for probably 15 years, and we used to ride 300 or 400 kilometers a week, and I was fit. I knew my body well, and I knew there was nothing wrong with it. Let me put it that way. I could sustain 177 heart rate for around 11 minutes continuously on a hill climb without dying.
Yeah.
So I knew I was okay.
Yeah.
Um, but what it does is it raises questions. It says, well, if this isn't right, what else isn't right?
Hmm.
So and then coming into 2020, that wonderful, fabulous month of March.
Yep. I remember it
Um,
well.
yeah, I think everybody in Australia does, and certainly in Melbourne, because they locked us down for about 400 years.
Yep.
Um, actually, there's a funny little story about that because they keep trying to tell us that they're going to erect a statue of Daniel Andrews. And
It wouldn't last long, would it?
apparently there's a book running somewhere that says the first person to drag it down with chains and a ute will get $10,000. Well, apparently there's about 500 people lined up to take that. It'll never survive,
No.
which is which I find immensely amusing because I'd love them to put it up because I
Yeah.
think it'd be hilarious to see how many times it gets taken down.
Yeah.
Eventually, they'd have to put armed guards around it, which would be
Yeah.
even funnier.
Yes.
So yeah,
Oh,
2020 came along, and it gave us access to a lot or deeper research. We'd already been researching a lot of this, and if you've ever looked at a Midwestern doctor Substack, I would highly recommend it. She writes, it's called The Forgotten Side of Medicine,
yep.
and she writes under a pseudonym called A Midwestern Doctor on Substack. What she hasn't written about Zeta Potential isn't worth worrying about. It's absolutely phenomenal, the entire history of it, and I'll touch on that a little bit. Um, and let me just to clarify and just explain. Zeta Potential is an electrical measurement, and
Hmm.
it was first used in and a chemist will know what it is. Because it measures the electrical charge in what's called a colloid substance. Well, a colloid substance in our case is called blood,
Hmm.
which is a fairly important substance.
Yep.
So if you can change the charge in the blood on the particles in your blood or on the actual surface of the blood, if you change the electrical charge on that, you change the viscosity of the blood. And it's like turning paint from a thick paint into a thin paint, which is actually how they do it. They change the zeta potential of the contents. Well, our body is a little bit like that. We've got, gallons and gallons and gallons of blood pumping around our body. And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that thick blood is probably not that good for us.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, the Chinese actually have a specific term for that type of blood, that thick blood. And anybody you can look anybody who's got veins on their face now. I no longer do. I started getting them,
Mm-hmm.
but since I've been using Zeta Potential, they're gone. And
Yep.
and that's partly because what happens at a capillary level, in the extremities of your arms and your legs, the pump from the blood from your heart muscle isn't pushing blood through those tiny little capillaries. They close off, and when they back up, that's where you get fine veins and fine lines. And that's essentially a capillary that's no longer functioning very well.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, sometimes it's just no longer functioning at all. So by changing the zeta potential in the blood, it allows the blood to flow again in places where it perhaps wasn't. Now, don't mind her.
Oh.
She's my guard dog's gone off.
Oh, yep.
Um, so it allows it to change. Now, once again, this is something that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the amount of time that it took for us to get from our late 20s, 30s, when you were pretty much bulletproof, you could do anything in the world. And then you got to this point where, you look and you go, well, where did they come from? Or how did that happen? Or why is it that, I have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to have a wee, which I never used to have to do. I could have 3 cups of chocolate before whatever tea before I went to bed, and I wouldn't have to go, but now I
Yep.
do,
Yep.
and now that happens to everybody.
Yep.
Um, and what this does is, because it's affecting your blood flow and it's quite significant in the way that it affects it, a lot of that stuff gets resolved. As I said, I'm coming up to 64. Um, like everybody in my mid 50s, I started noticing that I had to get up
Mm-hmm.
at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And the problem is that you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then your mind starts wandering, and you start thinking about what you're doing for the day. And then it's 5 o'clock, and you've got back to sleep for about an hour, and then you've got to get up again, and
Yep.
you feel tired.
Yep.
So we sleep through the night. We don't have any issues whatsoever. Um, Fine veins have disappeared. I can't speak about the hair because there's just not enough there to really qualify it.
Yep.
But I do have hair. I do have hair in other parts of my body,
Yep.
like most men, and it's definitely darkened,
Yep.
and noticeably so. And my wife's hairdresser had commented, after only a relatively short spot time using Zeta. She'd said to her, "Jules, what are you doing? What have you done? I'm supposed to be doing your roots, and I really don't need to do any. What's
Mm-hmm.
going on?"
Yep.
And her hair is in a condition now, that it's better than it's been in her entire life.
Yep.
Um, and
Wow. So it's
whilst
not just the color, it's the condition
it's
and
color and condition, and
yeah.
and it's just it's everything. So, and that
Yep.
all comes back to blood flow.
Yep.
Well, she's a wicked little girl. She's
I,
my guard dog. She's sitting just down here,
oh,
and she's got a little crack in the window she can see out. And if she sees a leaf move, she'll
oh
bark. So
yeah. I've
just
got my
ignore her.
guard dog down here too, but he's fast asleep.
Yeah, well, she's supposed to be. She's
Oh,
that's the advantage of being able to do this on an afternoon, and we have
yep.
our animals with us because she's just marvelous.
Yep.
Um, so that's how it sort of started. We built the knowledge base out of there. I read, and again, that Substack is phenomenal. Jared Pollack wrote a book in the late 1990s called The Fourth Stage of Water, which is still available on Amazon. Thomas Riddick's work isn't available. You can't get it. It was written in the 50s and 60s, so it's not available. But they were the pioneers of what Zeta Potential actually became, and its relationship to blood.
Mm-hmm.
What Pollack wrote about was liquid crystalline water. He also called it exclusion water, exclusion zone water. Um, the biggest one is that its chemical formula is H320, which is there's a variety of different names in the community for it. But liquid crystalline water is the better one. But they also call it living water and a whole range of different things. Um, and the idea behind it is, when you change the electrical charge in your blood, what it does is it increases what's called the slip plane. So it makes your blood slippery against the surface of the artery. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, again, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out that that's a good thing.
Yep.
And when I take that back all the way to Malcolm Kendrick's entire concept about heart disease is that it wasn't the cholesterol that was clogging the veins, which is what you see in the media, and that's what you experience. But it was micro tears in the surface of the blood vessel, and those micro tears get patched. Our blood is and our bodies are trained to patch repairs,
Mm-hmm.
and they patch them with things. Well, of course, they're called soft plaques. So they'd get these and they'd patch the repairs on the arteries, and but soft plaques have a tendency to tear off. And when they tear off, you get two things. You get heart attack and you get stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his entire basis. So going back to Zeta Potential, increases the slip plane, makes the blood more slippery, allows it essentially it allows the cells to repel each other rather than clumping together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the basis of it. And all of the experiments that both Riddick and Thomas McDaniel and Jared Pollock did were about what's the best cation or anion to be able to do that. What's the best substance to do it? And it came down to two. It came down to potassium citrate and potassium bicarbonate in a very precise mix, which is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
those two ingredients in a sachet,
Yep.
and we package these into a sachet designed to be tipped into 1 liter of water. And when you mix that with 1 liter of water, and I will come back and touch on the water, we mentioned that before.
Yep.
When you mix that into 1 liter of water, you put that into the fridge, and that becomes a concentrate, and that will last you a month. So one of
Mm-hmm.
those sachets is a month's worth. It's about a couple of dollars a day.
Yep.
And that you pour out 30 mils into a glass, and then you top it up with clean water. So
Mm-hmm.
30 mils to about 120, so you got about 150 mils. Drink that in the morning,
Yep.
and over a period of time, it does some rather remarkable things. And again, I'll stress the time part. A lot of people, not so much in our community, but a lot of people in the general community, because they've been conditioned by the medical industrial complex, they tend to think, well, give me a pill for something and I want to see it. I want to see the results instantly.
Yeah. They want quick fixes.
Yep. And
Yep.
that's not what this is about. This is about changing the underlying strata of your health to be able to improve it literally from the ground up. And
Mm-hmm.
that takes time. But
Yep.
we've been using this for about 3 years now, maybe longer. So we've noticed a lot of the benefits and a lot of the side effects, if you like. And of course, that first lockdown occurred, and we were sitting there scratching our heads, thinking, "What's going on here?" And I scratched out over the course of the multiple lockdowns that we had. I scratched out the idea of a book, and
Mm-hmm.
they always say there's one book in all of us.
Yep.
Um, and I'd always felt that, so I thought, look, I'll put these ideas down because I had the time. So we did that, and then of course, all of that ended, and we had to go back to doing what we were doing before because it was still there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was still there, but it was different. You talked about that point where you'd woken up. Well, we'd spent the better part of 18 months in every conceivable rabbit hole that
Yep.
existed. And in fact, I think there was rabbit holes down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And I loved it
Yep.
because we sat there and went, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Yep.
And you can, once I always say, people have asked, would you, if you had the chance to go back to that point and you had the chance to say, no, I'm not going to wake up to this, if you could take it, would you do that? And the answer is absolutely, unequivocally no.
Mm.
I want to know,
Yeah. Yep.
and and no, I don't trust the bastards.
Yeah, exactly. And I take my hat off to people like you that did the majority of their waking up around that time, because of what
Mm,
happened in 2020. Um, like when we spoke yesterday before we recorded this, we had a little chat yesterday, and I was telling you a little bit about my um, awareness of things. And I got hit with a lot around the 28 to 2010 period.
mm.
And then after that, it was a gradual, and then a bit more in around 2016 to 2018, and then a bit more and a bit more. So I had time to process.
Mm.
Whereas a lot of people, when everything hit in 2020, 21, 22, um, you had all that, you know, stuff thrown at you, the grieving process, the shock, the anger, the just everything at
Yeah,
once.
all of that, and I think the biggest thing is that you'd read something, or in my case, I think Julie probably did a lot more of that than me, but she was far more accepting. She'd sit there and she'd go, well, blah blah blah, and she's bloody right, but she's on this male to female thing, and how many of the actors and people that we look at,
Yep.
that are men
Mm-hmm.
aren't, and that are
Yep.
women aren't.
Yep.
And I'd go for a long time. I go, no, I can't do that. I can't go down that one.
Yeah.
And then something would happen. And you'd go, oh God, she's right. You
Yeah.
can't. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Exactly.
It's like
Yep.
the dedication in the book. I put there's another paragraph in there and said that the sign their symbols will be their downfall.
Yep.
And once you recognize symbols and you recognize the symbols that are used, you see them wherever you see them everywhere.
Yep.
Doesn't matter where you
Absolutely.
look, you can
Yep.
find them. They're there. We look at everything that comes out now. I mean, we haven't watched commercial television for a long time, probably well before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and since then, the Black Mirror just sits on the wall. The only thing we ever watch is we watch YouTube channels,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
old movies.
Yeah.
and we
I've
and
actually
we
covered mine with like a sarong with dolphins and rainbows on it.
Well, we watch.
Yeah.
We tend to watch old movies because
Yeah.
sometimes they're really good,
Yeah.
and sometimes we watch them because we're looking for symbols,
Yeah.
and they're there,
Yeah.
and sometimes we watch them because they were telling us something all the way back then.
Yes. Predictive programming.
Absolutely, very
Yeah.
predictive, and it's still going on today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But yes, it was a big wake up.
Yeah.
And I look back on so what came out of that was that book, and I'll just see if the camera will thing it. So
Yep.
Seraphel's song.
There we
So
go.
that's what
Yep.
that's the book that came out of that those lockdowns. It, that's not where it ended. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The book that I ended up printing isn't what I first wrote. The
Mm-hmm.
difference between them was vast.
Yep.
But the interesting part about it is that the concept for that book came out of something that actually happened to my wife and I in 1983, which tells how long we've been married.
Yep.
Um, and we were on a we did, because we were kids, we did a road trip over to Adelaide. We were just going to go over there for something, or somebody's wedding or something. And I'm not going to give it away because chapter one, the
Mm-hmm.
entire content of chapter one is literally based on those circumstances.
Yep. So the book is actually a novel. It's
It's
not,
a novel.
yeah. So
It's not.
but
It's
it's an
yes,
allegorical novel.
yeah.
Yep.
Technically, because we had to classify when we did it, it's science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
I'd like to call it conspirafact.
Yes. The two go hand in hand, I think, don't they?
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
interchangeable. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to say that it's theoretical,
Yeah.
um, but it's not.
Yep.
There are aspects of this, and the basis of the book is that, and I had to build in some platforms. I took what we know about certain aspects of our history, if we can believe it,
Yep.
certain aspects of our history, and I created this around it. So I brought the Palladians in because they were the founders of Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
and Atlantis is a crystal city that was grown from crystal, and that's using frequency, of course.
Yep.
So on the planet, we have we have six natural layers of frequency, and they actually match the self-regio frequencies, and they also match the chakras as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's more chakras, but we used these six. And then 2,000 years after the founding of Atlantis, which is 12,000 years ago, the Anunnaki arrived. And the Anunnaki are, in my particular, aren't terribly nice. They came here for gold, but they stayed here for something that was quite different
Mm-hmm.
because they discovered, and again, this is frequency and harmonics and resonance,
Yep.
and they discovered that there was a thing called loosh energy,
Mm-hmm.
and they worked out that that loosh energy prolonged their lifespans by eons. So, of course, that was far more valuable than just harvesting gold for the home planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, 13 of them stayed. And those 13 became the 13 bloodlines that we talk about today. And my implication in the book is that they're Anunnaki, the
Mm-hmm.
originals. In fact, it's
Yep.
not even implication. I think I actually state that.
Yep.
um, and the chief, the head guy is Anu, which was, if you go back to the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Sumerian tablets. That's
Mm-hmm.
essentially who we were talking about was Anu,
Yep.
and we built in Nephilim into there, a specific, not a group of Nephilim, just one.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very, very, very important part of the entire book. But everything is based on frequencies and the ability to be able to change to change the world through frequency.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh, and yeah, that so that's sort of where it went to when we created or when I wrote this book. Um, the surprising thing was that it almost came out of the same research.
Yep.
We were doing one and then I'd pick up on another and then we'd watch this and watch that. So all of it sort of came together
Yep. So
almost at the
it's
same
like a
time.
jigsaw puzzle, really, isn't it? You get one piece and then
Yeah,
another, and then you
I think
stand
that's like
back
waking
and
up, isn't it?
yeah, and you see the bigger picture. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
You look at the bigger picture and you think, hmm.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how the book all came out, and that's where Zeta came into it. Zeta's as I said, we've been doing this for about 3 years now, and maybe longer. And we originally started this because I had a conversation with Mark Atwood. And he said, you need to put this into a package and you need to get it into the market. And I
Mm-hmm.
sort of laughingly said, well, not like I've got enough to do because I run a business. And he said, no, you need to do this. And so
Yep.
that was sort of how that resulted and how that came about. Mark was a big part of that.
Yep.
And he's got a great channel. He he'll talk about anything.
Yep.
It's quite
Yep.
literally, which is good.
Yep.
But it's so the book came out of that, and when I went back to it in about January or February of this year, and the note had come up in my iPad, and I was looking at it, and I thought, I really, really need to actually finish that. I need to do something about it, and I started writing, and I didn't stop.
Yep.
And it was meant to happen at that particular point. Um, one of the key things I wrote into the book was that was automatic writing. Aaron experiences automatic writing, and that was a lot of like what it was for me. That's why I used that phraseology because I'd sit down and write, and I just didn't stop. It just flowed.
Yeah, you're in the flow, I was just about to say. In the flow state.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely. And it was very much flow state.
Yep.
And then I'd finished the first edition, or not edition, that's not the first copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd edited it and I'd got down to about the third or fourth. And I thought, yeah, that's really good. That's great. And I sent it through to a copy editor, which was probably the best thing I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a lovely lady from the Midwest of US, and she's read the book and she did this in 5 days, and she line edited it for like every single line,
Yep.
and it came back with like 800 comments.
Yep.
And I'm looking at it and thinking, oh my God. But what the essential premise is that I'd spent 5 chapters venting
Mm-hmm.
over the lockdowns and the experiences we had, none of which added to the core of the novel.
Yep.
It was I'd writ that had come out of me because I needed to say it,
Yep.
and I tried to build it into the book in a way that it didn't. Well, it worked, but it was boring.
Yep.
Nobody wanted to read all of the stuff that we just didn't need it.
Yep.
So, but we used a lot of the stuff that we know. So we
Mm-hmm.
used the lockdowns to our advantage. Yes, we've got 5G towers in there. There's a reason but there's a reason for that. They actually go into the second book because whilst we wrote this, I had written probably, I've got most of the second book finished,
Mm-hmm.
because I actually wrote it all at the same time, and I realized I couldn't put it into one book. It would have just been ridiculously large and too complex.
Yep.
So we split it into two, and even from what I'd written that first round in that first period of time, even from what we've written then, I've changed that a little bit there. But we've built in some of the key features, like for example, um, the Antarctic that
Mm-hmm.
has to come into scope. It's not in the first book, but it's in the second. So we
Yep.
built in the Antarctic, and I was talking to Guy Anderson last night, and Tartaria it was called the Golden Age.
Yep.
Um, well, when you get to the end of book one, you'll realize where that's going.
Yep.
So it's a terrific well, I think it's a good little allure. So we use a lot of the stuff that we use in our community, and I've built it into a book, and then created a framework.
Yep.
And that framework was trying to understand, and this goes back to the Anunnaki. So when they realized what they had, they needed a method of controlling humanity. So
Mm-hmm.
they built a seventh layer over the top of the six natural ones.
Yep.
And that seventh layer, um, which I call layer seven, it's really original. But
I, I've got a little, well, an artificial production company called the Seventh Wave, and I never realized that.
Oh, there you go. The
Yeah.
seventh wave. Well,
Yep.
this is layer seven, and
Yep.
layer seven is the a mechanism that the Anunnaki use to suppress and control humanity, because the only way that they can generate loose energy is to control humanity to a degree where they can create it. And to do that, they need to be able to create wars, and they need to be able to create antagonism and conflict, and because all of that generates that energy that they want.
Fear.
Fear,
Basically, fear.
yeah,
Yeah. Dread,
exactly.
frustration, all the lower,
All the
lower.
lower, yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
and and in the book, I'd said, well, they've learned how to harvest that,
Yep.
and which is why it was still running today. And the end game is that Seraphel. So that lovely lady there, and I'm just trying to get the camera. So that lovely lady there
Yep.
is Seraphel, and Seraphel is the last of the Pleiadians. And that image is, which the girl that did the image nailed it, but that's her standing on the last tower, encoding into the survivors what would ultimately happen 12,000 years down the track.
Mm-hmm.
And those two are the key to the disruption or the destruction of layer seven.
Yep.
Because of course, we've got to get rid of it.
Yep. Absolutely.
We have
Yes.
to get rid of layer
We,
seven. But
yep.
it's funny because we even talk about it. We'll go down the street, and you'll meet somebody, and we'll walk away and we'll look at each other and go, yeah, it's layer seven.
Yep.
You can just see it.
Yep. Yep.
Just
Wow.
that control mechanism. You can just see that it's there. And
Yeah.
so layer seven is just, I mean, it's a euphemism. It's just a name that I created to describe that suppression layer. And
Yeah.
it was actually in one of the chapters that I threw out. But during those lockdowns, and they'd have those bloody announcements, they'd do that briefing every morning at whatever it was, which we never watched, but we'd heard about. Um, but that was what it was. That was that conditioning and that fear mongering.
Yep.
They would put that fear. and it was worldwide,
And you could
and it
feel it,
was,
even if you didn't
yeah.
watch TV, because like we're the same. We don't watch TV. Well, my hubby does have a TV in his man cave, and he watches, certain sports and things. But we haven't watched mainstream TV for years.
Mm.
But still, you could actually feel it. It was palpable. You could feel it in the air. The
If
actual,
you watch TV now, God forbid that you do, but even as simple as turning the radio on in the car, which we never do. I never listen to a radio. But when you turn the radio on, there's a news bulletin every 15 minutes.
mm,
And it's like, well, this is the latest disaster, and this is the latest thing, and this is the latest thing,
yeah,
and it's constant barrage of negative energy.
yeah,
And that's that lower bandwidth that you talked about.
yeah,
And that's the suppression layer. You
mm-hmm,
know, that's where all of this comes together. And that's why we called it layer seven, because it gives us a terminology and a description to say we see you, we understand what's happening, we can see what's happening.
mm-hmm,
And then into the back end of this, I for a variety of reasons, I had to build in quantum physics,
yeah,
which also means I had to actually learn a little bit about it.
yeah,
Quantum physics is an interesting thing because they really don't have any idea how it works.
no,
They know it works and they know the mathematics behind it, but they can't tell you why it works.
yeah,
And then the double slit experiment comes along and they shoot these photons at this, these two slits, and they do their normal thing until somebody looks at them, and then they do the opposite.
yeah,
And they don't know
yeah,
why.
yeah,
So, if by looking at something as fundamental as a photon that you can change the reality of that, then in theory, you can change your own reality
mm-hmm,
just by looking at it.
yeah,
So the concept of destroying layer seven, I had this conversation with a lady in the Netherlands. The concept of destroying layer seven is to be able to recognize it for what it is
mm-hmm.
and not be affected by it.
Yes, that's the thing. I think the key thing is to take the emotion out, because that's what they're feeding on, is that low
Mm.
level emotion. But even excitement, even when we get excited, or we're still emitting an energy. Yes, it's a
Yeah,
higher vibration energy, but I think that middle path
I don't think they can harvest that.
is, yeah, just that observing. Oh, that's
Mm.
interesting. Yeah, oh, that's
Mm.
that's nice, or that's, not what I would choose. So, but just bringing it back to that calmness.
We open up. It's actually quite funny because I'll open up the Apple feed, the news feed. Um, I open that, and sometimes I'll go for like a couple of weeks, and then I'll open it up, and we'll be sitting there, and we literally laugh at the headlines.
Yep,
It's like, have a look at this, will you? So
yep,
what we're looking for 33.
mm-hmm.
Because there's always 33 killed in such and such, or
Yeah, or
33 over here,
66.
or
Yep,
66, or there's, he lived at 666 such and such a street, or
yep,
33 such and
yep,
such a street, or once again, or there's the the symbol
yep,
on something, or so we look at these headlines, we pull them up, and we go, this will be fun.
yep,
And we go through and we just pick them apart because
yeah,
it's almost a joke. Every now and then we look at something and go, "Are you kidding me?
yeah.
Why would you even say something like that?"
Well, I think they're doing it now. They are having a laugh at the normies, the people that are still oblivious to it, I think. And they're also using it for the ones that can see, that have tried to wake up the others. It's almost like we know you can see it, but they can't. Ha 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 ha. You know what I mean? They're mocking. Yeah.
I think they're losing.
Yeah, yeah. But they are. They're
I
throwing
definitely think they're
everything
losing.
to
Oh
see
yeah,
what sticks.
I think they're throwing the kitchen sink at the moment because
Yeah.
there's not a lot left in their tank.
No.
And it's up to us to be able to say, I see you, I see what you're doing.
Hmm.
I recognize it for what it is. It doesn't affect me,
Yeah.
and walk away.
Yeah.
Because we haven't shopped in a supermarket, with the exception of IGA for. So I refuse to step foot in the Woolworths, the Coles, and the Aldis. I
Hmm.
will not set foot in them ever again.
Yeah.
And when we have to, I'll go down to IGA. Generally speaking, we just order hard goods online. And we're fortunate because we live on the peninsula and we've got a lot of food places and a lot of farm gates around us. So we've got a couple of specialist shops. Do we pay more for it? Absolutely, we do.
Yep.
There's no question about that. But the source of the product is what we're looking for.
And you're getting the quality, you're getting the organic.
Yep.
Yep.
And because everything that we do for ourselves, and I'll come back to the water, is it has to be clean.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, if you can get the substrate, which is your food, your water, and your basics, if you can get that clean, everything flows from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
you can't, people say, oh, well, the water that comes out of my tap, oh, it's really clean. And I said, have you ever actually had it analyzed? Because it's like a soup, a
Mm.
chemical soup. Starting with what's sprayed out of the sky,
Mm-hmm.
which falls on the dams or in your water tanks,
Yep.
and it's then collected and run through the water system.
If people get a little TDS meter, they can check for
Yep.
themselves what's in.
Chlorine alone,
Yep.
just the chlorine that's in there, we can smell. We've got a triple water filter that runs the whole of house. So
Mm-hmm.
we filter whole. We're probably a bit extreme in this. We filter whole of house, and
Yep.
then under our sink we've got a reverse osmosis system, and we also have a zip tap. So the zip tap's connected via a pressure system because you can't directly connect it to reverse os. So we've connected that, and then we ran because a couple of friends of ours are very awake plumbers, so they came over and spent some time, and they ran plumbing from our reverse osmosis to our fridge
Mm-hmm.
and to the coffee machine.
Oh, wow.
So
Yep.
we know
So
that
you
if
got
we're
all
having it,
bases covered.
we've got all bases. So if you
Yep.
because the trap is that you go and get ice out of the ice maker in the fridge,
Yep.
but it's tapped into a normal line.
Yeah.
We didn't want that because there's still fluoride in it.
Yep.
And there's very few things, with the exception of reverse osmosis, that will take fluoride out.
Mm-hmm.
You can get chlorine out just with general filters, and again, this comes down to what each and every individual is capable of doing within their own financial capacity.
Yep.
Not everybody can afford to do that. So you've got to, there's the Genzen filters, and there's a whole range of different ones that will actually do that just on your bench top.
Yep.
Our kids have got one, and they're relatively inexpensive to get. But the very first thing you do is you clean your water, because
Mm-hmm.
even this, Zeta has to be, or should be, dissolved in the cleanest possible water you can get because of the
Yep.
dispersant factor. You want it completely dissolved.
Yep.
And the idea behind that's get a liter, tip it in, shake it, and it should go crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put it in the fridge.
Yep.
But
Does
that,
it
that
does it have to go in the fridge or can you leave it room temperature on the bench?
I'd prefer to keep it in the
You
fridge
prefer
because
it?
it's a food grade material. Food grade material.
Yep.
The product that we sourced is all food grade.
Yep.
So my preference is to have it in the
In the
fridge.
fridge, yep.
It's just a 1 liter bottle. We keep lots of those. Put it in glass. Don't ever put it in
Yeah.
plastic. I mean, that sort of stuff I shouldn't even have to say. But
Yep.
um, yeah, always glass. Pour your 30 ml out, and then again top it up with your clean water,
Mm-hmm.
so what you're ingesting as a starting point is absolutely, your substrate is pure and clean.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a lot of feedback from people saying, but reverse osmosis strips everything out. And yes, it does, but most RO systems have an extra cartridge on one end which adds minerals back in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the minerals are fine because it's not adding in fluoride or chlorine.
Yep.
And fluoride and chlorine both work as an anion or a cation, one or the other, against what we're trying to achieve.
Yep.
That's why you clean. That's why we clean the water.
Yep.
And the same
And
applies for
can
our
you
food.
add a little bit of sea salt? Because I add sea salt to my drinking
Yep.
water.
So salt is sodium.
Yep.
This is potassium.
Yep.
They're two different things. So yes, you can. I actually got asked that question this morning. So
Yep.
yes, if you want a pinch of salt in there, it's not an issue. You'll find that it's got a slightly salty flavor anyway, or a slightly salty taste. Not,
Mm-hmm.
it's yes, slightly. That's all I'd call it. We
Yeah.
don't even notice it now. We virtually drink it straight.
Yeah. Or you could just have the Zeta Plus as your first up
That's
morning
what, yeah,
glass.
that's what we do. Well, I
And then
always say to
later
people,
you could add a bit of salt to the rest
yes.
because yeah.
And that
to,
spreads it out over the day because
yeah,
we've got a salt bowl here on the side of the kitchen, and we just walk past and go dip.
yeah. Because that was another of the big lies, wasn't it? And again, this is all for entertainment purposes, YouTube. But yeah, the whole salt thing
Yep.
causing hardened thing,
Yeah.
certain things. Yeah. Um, but we need salt. The body is an electrical, it
We're a
has
salt.
electrical current, and we need that salt.
That's right.
Yeah.
We are a wet battery.
Yeah.
That's the human body is a negatively charged wet battery.
Yeah.
Um, when you go down to the beach or you're grounding by taking your shoes off and putting your feet into the earth,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually creating a contact with the earth, and you can tap that electrical charge. And we know the studies that have proven that grounding has a tremendously good effect. I was going to say positive, but it's a negative. See,
Yeah.
that's actually this is the funny part about it. So the reason that's called Zeta Plus,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a minus, it's because it's
Yes.
negative, is that if I put it as Zeta minus, nobody'd buy it because they'd go,
Yep.
oh, I'm not having that. Because once again, that's that conditioning. If it's
Yeah.
oh, it's negative,
Yep.
but this is a negative charge.
Yep. And I'm sure
Mm,
people understand because you get negative ions, like when you go out into
mm.
nature, when you go into the forest, and you get the negative ions, and that's what we need.
I was looking at that scene behind you, and which is primary because atomized water, which you'll get off a waterfall,
Yep.
has negative ions.
Yep.
The environment in the forest has negative ions, lots of them.
Yep.
The beach has lots and lots and lots of negative ions with atomized water.
Yeah.
It's why we always, when we go down there, apart from the fact that we're going to the beach or we're going to the forest, you feel good
Yeah.
because you're
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
contact with it. You're getting lots of negative ions.
Yeah.
We'll take Madam here down to the beach for just a half-hour run, and it does us as much good as it does her.
Yeah. Yep.
Quite extraordinary stuff, isn't
Yep. It is. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I've lost
How's
my
your
train of
time
thought.
going?
Oh
I know.
yeah, I'm doing fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've got about another half hour. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. I was thinking of something before when you were talking, but it's just gone now. But it'll come back. It'll come back at some stage. Yeah.
Yeah, so where we left the book, um, uh, as I said, part of that is I was going to say real life, but it's based on circumstances that happened to us. Some of the locations that we used in Mansfield are real locations. We just took those straight out of the page that we knew and adapted them.
Yeah.
Um, even the streets in Northcote that we used, they're all known to us because we live here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're Australian and reading it, obviously you're going to know a lot of that stuff anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah.
even the ley lines, where we live here, we've got a huge ley line just across the back from us,
Yeah.
and we know the energy on the property that we're on is really really pure.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of our local Aboriginal guys come in, and they just came in and they just went, "This property is just so clean."
Yeah. Is the song lines and the ley lines the same thing? Is it the
Yep,
song lines
I
are
think so.
actually what the original people call,
I think so.
but
Yeah.
the ley lines? Yeah.
The one of the chapters in the book's called Songlines.
Yeah. Wow.
Probably one of the most
Yeah.
important chapters in the book is called Songlines. It's probably my
Yeah.
favorite actually.
Yes.
Out of all of what was written, that was one of my favorites to write.
Yeah.
It did take a bit.
Yes. And I think that is important too for people to when we were talking before about the energetics of things and the frequency and the vibration and things like that. And when you're working with these subtle um, energies and things like that, you can put intent
Hmm.
and your will into things and clearing certain things, whether it's anything in your house, whether you feel that there's a dark energy or there's a portal or there's something going on, you can put intent, You
Yep.
can use crystals. They're just tools. Basically, we have the power to do it ourselves, but a lot of us like to use tools as well. So I've
Mm.
always got crystals. I love my selenite wands, and I've got
We've
my
got more selenite in this house than you can
rose
poke a stick
quartz,
at.
yeah,
Yep.
and
And I have
tourmaline, yeah.
on my desk I have these. So that's an
Oh, yeah.
ammonite.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's
Yeah,
an ammonite. So the thing I love about this, if you I'll just get the camera to focus on. So all of this is crystalline.
yeah,
So this is all crystallized all the way through here. And if you look at this, that's a Fibonacci sequence.
yes, yeah,
And a Fibonacci sequence, of course, is the God code.
yes, yeah,
It's in everything.
yeah,
And so I have a bookend or a matching pair of those that sit on my desk, and that's my reminder that uh, it didn't just happen;
yeah,
it was
exactly.
created,
Yes,
and
exactly.
there was a very specific intent in doing that. And if that intent exists, then we can tap into it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same as like the water experiments that Dr. Emoto did. And I'm sure
Hmm.
most people would be aware of that, but for those that may
Yes,
not, Dr. Emoto was a Japanese scientist that was conducting, I can't remember what years it was. Was it the
about the
90s,
80s or 90s, I
80s or
think it was. I
90s?
remember
Yeah.
seeing them.
Yeah, and he did these experiments with water. So he'd get like little petri dishes and put water in, and he would freeze the water so you'd get the water crystals. But before he froze them, he would put intent into them. Sometimes he'd even write things on the container. Like, so he'd write, I love you. And then other ones he'd say, I hate you or I despise you. And all the ones that had all the nice positive affirmations and the loving gestures and even thoughts
Hmm.
projected towards them, they had beautiful, like snowflake like formations in the crystals. Whereas the ones that had all the negative intent and the negative words and vibrations, they were all very disarrayed and mucky looking. And I've also seen people do the rice experiment where they
Hmm.
boil rice and put them in two or actually even three different containers. One they send love to, the other one they send hateful thoughts and negative thoughts. And then the one that they ignore often can even be more horribly,
Mm.
and
Because it's
break.
ignored.
Yes, yeah. So, and again, if we're made up of, well, what do they say, 70% water or,
I think it's
um,
closer to 90.
yeah. So, what are we doing to ourselves with our thoughts?
We'll take it a little bit further because that's a really interesting point. We are 90% water.
Yeah.
Now, water is made up of two hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atoms, H2O. But an atom is actually, in the microscopic world, an atom is actually quite a large thing. When you go down from atoms, and this is where we get into fractals, when
Mm-hmm.
you come down from atoms and you come all the way down to a quark, what's beyond a quark? Nobody knows.
No, I was just,
Nobody
yeah,
knows how to get small enough.
yeah.
So but there has to be something because you can't just have, if you go beyond a quark, you've got vacant space. Now, even at that level, even at that subatomic level of quarks and neutronians and all of the rest of the stuff, the space and the gaps between these things is quite enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're looking at an atom and you've got two hydrogen and one oxygen and there's space around them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's in the space?
But there's still connection between them, isn't there? There is still
Absolutely.
something
Well, that's what binds them.
sending
There's a binding between them.
signals. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So if you bring it all the way back to that and bring it all the way down, really we're just a whole pile of goo that's been put together and what creates the physical body that we're in, what creates the physical world that we're in, everything from the universe, the whole lot. And if you bring it down to the size of a quark and you think of how many of them are required to make everything up, it becomes utterly incomprehensible.
Mind boggling.
But
Yeah.
it also means
Yep.
that like you said, with intention and with positive thought and affirmation, yes, I think things can quite clearly be changed, and I
Yeah.
think that's part of what the movement, if you want to call it, is about. Um, society and or not society, but a large part of it waking up to the tricks that these people are up to, and that layer seven suppression. I think a lot of that whole waking up is about our realization that we do have the capacity to change our environment, to change the world, and to change the way we are.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how I don't know how you change the system per se.
Mm.
I think it has to fail to a degree before it can be. Oh, don't mind her. I think it has to break before it can be repaired.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know how that will work. Hopefully, it won't break. It just breaks to a point where it can change.
Yeah. Transforms.
Yeah, it's a much better
Yeah.
word. Transform. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's
But
what I'd like.
yeah. But yeah, that saying mind over matter, and I like Crow's saying, I don't know if
Mm,
you follow Crow 777. He has a thing that he says, mind precedes all.
mm.
And it's so true, because before anything was physically created, it was a thought in someone's mind.
I read a
So
story a long time ago about a chap that had been taken prisoner of war in Vietnam, and he was kept in one of the cages, and he played golf in his mind. He to keep himself from going insane. He in his mind he had a golf course and he played every shot and he played it again and again and again and again. Um, when he was repatriated back to America, he could play golf almost at a professional level.
yeah,
That's mind over matter.
yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
like to
Well,
do
they've
that with
even
my
done
golf game.
Well, they've even done experiments with well, the next best thing would be the old Nintendo. My husband used to get on the Nintendo and play the While I Open. He loved that game. Um, but yeah, athletes, Olympians, Olympic
Mm,
athletes, they've done scientific experiments on them where they have had a control group that have actually done the proper training. What do I say, proper training, but the physical training. And then they've had another group that go into meditative states and do the training in their mind as if they're doing it physically, but only in their mind. And they have just the same results with their muscle mass and all this sort of stuff as the ones that actually physically went and did the training.
well, there's that saying, if you can conceive it and believe it, you can do it.
Yeah. And
And I think that's true.
exactly. And that explains miraculous, healings like
Mm,
um, RJ Spina. I don't know if you've heard of him,
no.
but he's a guy that was paralyzed from the waist. Oh, no, from under the arms down, I think.
Hmm.
He had some sort of something happened on his spine. I don't know if it was a tumor or something, but he ended up getting sepsis and had all
Mm,
sorts of things going on. And they told him he would never walk again.
mm.
And he put his mind to it and he said, "No, you're wrong. I'll walk out of here in 100 days." And he did. He actually completely healed himself. Admittedly, he walked out using a walking frame, but now you wouldn't even know that he ever had a problem. And so he's authored many books and he does talks and things like that. And there's been so many other people too that have had similar things happen where they've, overcome disease or disease, or an
Mm.
accident or something like that simply by putting their mind to it,
Well,
and
and
not
it's
accepting what the
yeah,
mainstream
it's
say.
it's the story of, the mum um whose child's trapped under a car, and they literally lift a ton and a half of car to get them out.
Yep,
And there's records of that. There's documented records of that happening. And yet physically it's not possible,
yep, yep.
but it
So
happens.
exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So,
Uh, yeah,
is
go
it?
on.
I was going to say, was there anything else you wanted to talk about water?
Oh, there's so much you can spend a lot of time on water, but
Yep,
my only thing there is clean it. Get
Yeah.
it as clean as you possibly can. A lot of people have devices that will spin it, so vortex it. Um, Anything along those lines. If you feel a benefit from it, pretty
Yeah.
much like we just said, if you can perceive a benefit from it, then do it.
Yeah. And you can talk
Absolutely.
to water too, because water is
Yeah.
programmable. So I
Yeah.
often do that. I will talk to the water.
Has memory.
Um, yes, exactly. Well, I
Mm.
don't actually have a filter under my sink, although I'm going to be looking at getting something. But I buy they call it Australia's purest water. I don't, you must have seen it down there. It comes in casks and it's pure AU.
You
And
don't
it,
get anything like that in Victoria. They want to poison you, not clean
oh,
you.
okay. And so I have those on my bench. So they come in a
Yep.
box like a cask. Yeah. So that's the water. And I have used my TDS meter on it several times and it always comes up at 0.00.
Good.
Whereas the spring water I get's anywhere between zero, point zero 0.02 to
Well,
point zero 0.05.
I think the thing with spring waters and it doesn't, you know, it's probably not even the source of the water.
Yeah.
It's what happens to it. You think about the pipes that it's running through. You
Yeah.
think about the machinery that it runs through, the pumps that it runs through to get to where it's going.
Yeah.
And even to the point where you've got bottled water. Half the time they fill it up out of a tap.
Yeah.
We can smell.
Yeah.
My wife in particular has got an extraordinary sense of smell,
Yeah.
and we had when we swapped the filter out last time, I hadn't turned one of the taps properly, so we were getting a little bit of town water
Mm-hmm.
mixed in, and she could smell it from 10 feet away.
Yeah.
And she said, "There's something wrong with the water."
Yeah.
We went out and checked it, and sure enough, there
Yeah.
was. And you can smell. Yeah, you go into a restaurant or a cafe, and if they pour water out into a glass, you can smell the
Oh,
water.
absolutely. Yeah. I never
It's
touch
toxic.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always take my own water when I go anywhere.
They
Just,
look at
yeah.
you as if you've got two heads, don't
I
they?
know.
It's like, well, what's wrong with our water? We get it straight out of the tap. And you look at them
Yeah.
and you think, oh my
Yeah.
God,
I know.
And you say, well, can you taste the water? Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just water.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is part of the problem.
Yeah.
You
And it's what
have
we
to
drink it
recognize
out
it.
of too. Like
Yeah,
glass is the best thing, but copper as well, I think you can
yeah.
drink out
Copper's
of
good.
copper.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Copper's
Um,
good. I like
yeah,
copper.
definitely not
That's
plastic.
copper.
Yeah. Well, we've got copper pipes actually. We would have known anyway because we're in a fairly oldish house. Well, not old compared to some places, but it's about 50 years old, I think.
So
So it's
copper
not a,
pipes.
so we've, yeah, and the only reason we knew for certain was, a couple of years ago, we'd had a lot of rain for
Mm,
months on end, and the front yard started to become a bit of a quagmire.
hmm
And then after a while, the rain went away, but we still had a bit of a lake happening. So we ended up, long story short, we had to get people out to source where it was, and then plumbers came in and it was a broken pipe from the mains to the house, and it's all copper. And I've got copper underneath the kitchen bench as
hmm
well. So, but the unfortunate thing is these days, if you want any repairs done or
It's
anything
all
like
plastic.
that, it's all poly pipe and things. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. When we had the water system done, and partly because our friends are awake
Yeah.
and they're plumbers, when they wired that in, it's all copper.
Yeah.
So you can buy it. You've just got to be prepared to pay for it because they charge you a small fortune for it, but because it's copper.
Yeah.
But you can get it. You
Yeah.
can have it replaced with copper, but you have to insist. You really do.
Yes.
And that's where you've got to look at your trades and say, well, who do I want to use?
Yeah.
It's a little
Exactly.
bit like your shopping. As individuals, we only have a certain number of choices that we can make, and that comes back to your intent and what you're doing. So, our intent is if we recognize layer seven for what it is, how do we fight back against that? And we do that on an individual basis with every single tiny, small decision we make,
Yeah.
from the water we drink to the food we eat to the programmed television that we watch to the sport that we watch or don't,
Mm-hmm.
to everything that we do.
Yep.
on a daily basis because it's a little bit like using Zeta. It, it's habit forming, which is what we want. We
Yep.
want a habit to form out of that, and tiny corrections that we make within ourselves along the way is what builds those habits. And then those habits build over a period of time to the point where you look back and you go, I eat really clean, we drink clean water, we don't do this, we don't do that, and I don't miss it.
Yep.
I drank alcohol for many years. When I was in the police force, I didn't.
That's one
It was a
thing that I've
thousand years ago.
that's one thing I've still got to let go of is
I can
the
tell you
glass of
this
wine.
it's a really interesting. I've got a friend of mine, Georgia Foster. She was actually on Mark's show last year, so she's in Melbourne, and she actually has a course to teach people how to stop using alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol, this is just my personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think anything of knocking off a bottle of Pinot Noir. I thought that was my, I could do that most nights without even trying very hard.
Yep.
And when we moved down to the peninsula 4.5 years ago, um, and like most people that had woken up and had come out of that, we moved away from an area where we were literally just wiped off by everybody that we knew,
Yep.
um, friends and family, which is why the dedication in the front of the book reads the way it does. It starts out, and I'm reading. So
Mm-hmm.
for those who wandered the rabbit holes and paid for it in rooms gone quiet, and in friendships dissolved, in families' indifference, and in the loneliness of seeing clearly in a world that calls your clarity a theory.
Mm-hmm.
We came out of
Yep.
all of that when we moved down here, and we realized, and again, I give credit to my wife Julie because, made the decision. She said, I don't need to drink.
Yep.
We found an amazing community down here, um, and I dug my heels in because my perception was that I enjoy drinking and I like having a glass of wine. And
Yep.
it wasn't until I sat there one afternoon I did what I was telling other people to do. I analyzed what I was doing and
Mm-hmm.
I recognized the patterning and the programming. And it's deep. And
Yeah.
it goes all the way back to our parents. It's that deep, 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 deep programming
Mm-hmm.
that we've had all our life that said, 5 o'clock, ding, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I have a glass of wine or two or three.
Yep.
And it was habit forming, and I did it every night because I enjoyed it.
Yep.
But what I recognized was it wasn't what I was drinking that I enjoyed. It was the pattern,
Yes.
and it was the pattern patterning me.
Yep.
So I looked at it and I thought,
So you got to do a
I,
pattern interruption.
"Yep, that's exactly right." And I looked at it and I thought, I actually don't need this.
Yep.
Uh, 3 years ago, I just stopped.
Yep.
It was a conscious decision to say, no, I just don't need it. It wasn't that I wanted to stop drinking. It was a case of, I just simply don't need this.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and that was something else that was a positive. I look at it 3 years later and people have said, well, would you go back to having a drink? And I said, no, because I don't miss it.
Mm.
I don't want it. I don't feel the need for it. And I don't want the patterning. I
Yep.
don't want the conditioning that comes with that sort of thing.
Yep.
If you go out with people and, the very first thing they do is they say, well, what would you like to drink? Waiters are really good like this. They say, what
Yeah.
would you like to drink? And you go, have you got a water selection there?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, you know, it's an interesting journey along the way, but I think for a lot of people in the community, that's part of it. You get to a point where you realize that you don't need it.
Yeah. Yep. But you're right about the programming, and it's everywhere. It's
Mm.
part of the Australian culture, really, when you think about it.
We were all born with it
Yeah. Yeah. And not just Australia. I mean,
worldwide.
worldwide, but yeah, like in
Well,
Italy
and why is
and
that?
Greece, and yeah, because it keeps our vibration lower.
And under the influence of alcohol, it can let other things in. It lowers your
Yes.
guards.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
It lowers those defenses.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't
It
it?
is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it makes you more
So,
susceptible to layer seven. So the other thing I
yeah.
was going to mention too was, so, and I know you'll put links in your
Yes, I
thing.
will. I'll put all the links and I will ask
So
at the end too how people can get in touch. So,
yeah, that'd be
yeah.
good. And if people want to email me, there's an email there. You can just get in touch. So
Yep.
on the Zeta site, we've got two ways of getting this. There's either a single pack or a double.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, the double pack's for two people because one of those makes up enough product for 1 month. So obviously, if there's two people, you need two.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is if somebody comes along and they subscribe for two packs, we use a subscription, not because we want to continually sell you things, is we use a subscription. So this arrives every month as a reminder. You make it up, put it in the fridge, and you're using it. And it's habit forming. That's the
Yep.
purpose behind it. So if you have a double subscription, I'm just going to get that to focus. No, I'm not. There we go.
Yep. There we go. Yep.
There we go. It's focus. So what we're going to do is I'm going to sign one of these, and on the second subscription, we're going to send it to you for free of charge.
That's great. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
If somebody comes in and they've got a single one of these, um, then we send everybody an ebook.
Mm-hmm.
So one or the other.
Yep.
If you go to the Zeta site and you order Zeta, then we're going to supply a book one way or the other.
Yep.
And if you just want to go onto Seraphel's song website and
I
run it through
think
there,
I think I can bring those up if I share screen.
yeah,
Let me just have a look.
I'd always suggest initially, mostly because I prefer people to use the Zeta, is go through the Zeta site because
So
I'm happy to give you
it's
a book.
so can uh okay, can you see that there?
I can't. No, I can just see you.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go.
You've got it now?
Yep,
Yep,
absolutely. We
there you
can see
go.
that.
So that is the Zeta Potential
Yep.
.com.au, and
And
also
Seraphil's song.
yep,
Yep.
that's that one there. Let me just click on that. Yep. So I don't know what that
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
another little thing there.
Yeah. A little
Uh
Microsoft rewards. You can get rid of
oh
that.
yep, there we go.
Yeah. So they're the two
Yep,
sites. And again, if you just go to the Zeta site
yep,
and scroll down, you'll see, keep going all the
yep.
way down. You'll see that there's some options down there. And that just goes through and explains how to use it
Oh
and
yep,
the way it works.
yep. And what you can
And
feel,
yeah,
mental clarity, faster
recovery,
recovery,
skin and
skin and
joints, which,
joints.
and
Yep.
hair.
Immune resilience, circulation support, and sustained energy. Yep.
And right down the bottom, you'll see there's the three purchase options there. So you'll see that there's there we
Oh,
go.
yep. So we've
So
got
the
yep,
starter's the most expensive, which is why I suggest people start with the subscribe. So the single subscribe, we do an ebook, and on the double subscribe there on the right hand side, which is 129, that we'll send out a book with that on the second subscription. But
yep.
there's also, see that little mystery code on the sides there. I'd strongly suggest people use that because it gives them 10% off as well.
Okay. Yep. All right. Great. Awesome. But yeah, I'll
Excellent.
put links anyway for this as well. So if people want to order, they can just click on the link anyway. I'll
Yeah.
put that
Yeah.
underneath.
Great idea.
Yeah. Yep. So all right. So we'll
No
just
problems. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for a lovely
Oh,
afternoon.
well, yes, thank you. Thank you for your time. And we'll definitely have to do a part two.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Mark did end up doing a roundtable. I was listening today to one of the interviews you did with him a while ago, and he was going to, but
Yep.
I know he's such a busy
We
man.
were
So,
we were going to, but the problem with Mark is a time thing because he
yeah,
he talks to so many people. It's a bit crazy. But
yeah,
we do have a little bit. Um, if you watch that latest interview that I did with Mark, we actually talked about, and I think most people that go on his show do the same thing when they're in Australia. They say, "Oh, Mark, you've got to come down here," and of course he says, "Haha, yes, of course I do."
yep,
So we followed through with that.
yep.
We've asked him. He's tentatively agreed. So we're in the planning stages of bringing Mark
Oh,
out. So it's
that's
just planning
great.
stages, and
Yep,
but what we'll do is we'll have a website, and when I get to it, I'll send it to you so you can distribute it. But we'll
yep,
have a website for registration of interest.
Yep.
And we'll run that for probably a couple of months to gauge numbers and make sure that we've got enough. But that's shh.
Yes. Don't tell anyone. Okay, all
Not yet.
those. Yep.
Not yet. You can soon.
Yes. Do you
That'd
do
be
you
really
do
good.
realize this is going on YouTube, or do you want me to edit that bit out?
No, 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 that's fine. As I said, it's
Oh,
planning stages, so
yes.
it's
And it
important
may
that
or
people
may
are
not
aware.
happen. We'll just see what happens.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But I've asked him and he's tentatively agreed, which is good.
Yeah.
We've just got to make it all work,
Yeah. The
which should be
logistics
great.
side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Well,
the plan is one in Brisbane, one in Melbourne. So
yeah.
you're in the box seat there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Fantastic. All right, Andy, again, thank you so much. And like I said, I'll leave all the links in the description box below
Thank
anyway,
you.
so people can get in touch with you and they can order and ask any questions or whatever. And yeah, feel free to leave comments below too. And
Yeah,
if Andy wants to drop in and check
I'll have a
comments
look at
out,
those. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So, all right. Thanks everyone for watching. This is episode 20 of Caravan of Consciousness, and I will catch you next time. Ciao, everyone.
Ciao.